woman who's very close to him and does a lot of the appointments. Is this woman Natalie Hart, who was another story.
The human printer.
Yes, and
okay, so today I finally think I got my stuff together. I am working on a little book. I'm working on a little book to go into this tin. And so I've got my pages ready. And I'm collaging on that. I may do more mark making on that too. But I wanted to show some of the collage work that I've done in the last couple of days in this book. So I will show you. I use these, let me change this. I use these sketchbooks, jumbo artist pads that I just get from Walmart when I do my grocery order to be picked up. But this is what I like to work in for this type of work. And there's quite a bit of different experiments, different things I've done for classes in here. But I will show you this collage work that I've done. And I call this just a process. And I do different processes. Here I started with my markers and shape making. And then I added text collage. And then I did patterns with a finer marker. Then I added like this. This is wallpaper sample. This is wallpaper and collaged that. And so the theme was using the color yellow in my artwork. And so this is one. I did this one using a different process. So for example, I started with my text pages, then I added collage, and then I added my mark making, shapes, and that. And you can see how this went over the collage. The different text, music, that I really like this with the cursive writing. And it resulted in a little bit more feeling of space, a lighter feeling to it. This one I started with collage, and a little bit more variety, wallpaper. So I try to make variety through the patterns, through the size of the collage, the text, and went through that process. So that's kind of where I'm at. And all of these, I also wanted to point out something. The structure that I used, even though you can't see it so much on this one, is just like a grid collage. And so just using the grid, and I kind of like this because I get very distracted pretty easily. Instead of, and it may be a little bit more intimidated by looking at this page as a whole, the grid, the smaller grids just allow me to focus on that one grid area at a time. So as I work within the grids, instead of looking at the whole page and getting intimidated, oh, I have to cover this whole page, just one grid at a time. And you can see how eventually it kind of went away. But each grid has the same elements to it. So, for example, on this one, let's go to this one where you can see the grid a little bit easier. Each grid will have the text piece. Each grid will have the fine point scribble piece. Each grid will have some kind of pattern. So every element across the grids varies, but each grid will have shape drawn in, pattern drawn in, collage elements. And then you can kind of see how the grid just goes away. On this one, the grid is a little bit more obvious. And what I did here was I used pan pastel as to fill in a template or a stencil, and I just used my pan pastel and a pastel brush. I thought I still had it laying here, but I don't see it anywhere. A pan pastel brush to add the pastel into the grid. So here is the pan pastel. Here's the brush that I use. And just take the stencil. So we'll go to flip over to this page here. So I just put down my stencil and do that. Like that, and then I might take something else and add the pastel. So I have all of these kind of contrasting patterns in my piece. And these are the three. I use these all the time. These three stencils. Creature of habit, I guess. So there I've laid down that color. And then you have to use a fixative, and I like using this fixative. I think it's fairly non-toxic. You can use hairspray on soft pastels as a fixative too, or an alcohol spray. And some people don't like to use fixative on pastels, but you kind of have to on something like this. And otherwise you're gonna get, as you go in with your collage and work like that, you're gonna end up with just a smeared up mess. So I generally put on 2 or 3 coats over this. I kind of keep testing it. A little bit of the pastel will come off after you do a couple of coats, but generally the fixative works pretty well. And this fixative is from Sennelier. It is not cheap, but a can of this has lasted me a very, very long time. And I've done a considerable amount of work with doing this kind of process and other pastel work. So, and it just kind of allows you to layer. And I don't know if there's any real... It's an alcohol and non-yellowing synthetic resin-based fixative. The film dries to uniform transparent matte finish. Apply in several light coats rather than one heavy application. So I'm not sure how long you're supposed to wait, but I'm going to go ahead and add another coat now. I think it's dry. And as you can see, I'm not really spraying a lot. Paper is starting to buckle a little, but this is a pretty lightweight drawing paper that I'm using here. The other thing that, while we're waiting for that to kind of set up, the other thing I'm working on here is I have a pretty good collection of these tins, and a class I'm taking, we make these little books that go in these tins. So I was going through all my stuff and came across a big case full of these tins that my husband or I picked up at an estate sale. Just a minute. Okay, so I added another uh, coat of the fixative on this, and I think it's pretty well. Let me test this with my, I can have a finger. So it's pretty well dry by now. So then I started talking about the little books I was making for this tin. So I'm going to have to cut this one some more. But I think in general I got most of these sized right. So I'm going to go ahead and collage onto these. So that's what I'm doing here. So that's my first step, is to just do the collage. Some of these I did do the pastel template stenciling on too. So I've got a little bit of variety that'll go into my book. I'm not sure. I've tried how I'm going to put my signatures together. Some people sew them, that sort of thing. I've actually even tried just using a glue gun. I'm not good at that sort of thing, but I kind of enjoy the process of making the books, and I'm excited to see them in these tins. So I've been in the back of my mind, how am I going to grid out this this page? I guess it doesn't really matter. I've tried tape. I just used Scotch tape, and that actually seemed to work pretty well. Here's my Scotch tape. I don't have a good eye for, making sure that these things are all uniform in size, and I've even found out that even if I measure with a ruler, I will still get it off. I don't know. Maybe it's just I just am not focused enough or something. So I did that in 3s, and I think I should have done it in 4. Well, so I think I'm going to bravely move these tapes down. So you can see that came up pretty easily. And this is just probably about halfway through. I will take this tape off and then just continue working. But I kind of like the weirdness of that grid line. So I am going to, and why use Scotch tape, you may ask? Because it's what I had at hand. I was going to use washi tape, but then I came across this tape, and I thought, oh, why not? I'll give it a try. And I think there was only one space where actually, I'll just leave it like that. It pulled up or tore the paper. So that what I figured that, I didn't think that was too bad. Okay, so I've got 12 squares. So what am I going to do next? I think what I'm going to do on this is add some collage. And what I did, as I was kind of cleaning up here, is I took all the stuff from the other images, collage pieces that I did, and I just threw scraps that I thought I could work with into this basket. It's just a little plastic basket for dog treats, I guess. It says Bon Appetit on it. So the first thing I want to do, I think, sometimes I like starting out with text. And I have some text pieces here. So you can either cut these for hard edges, or you can tear them for more of a soft edge. So I'm just going to cut a few. And I'll leave those torn edges. And then I really cut off some of those margins from the book. Got a little bit cleaner focus on text. And so for this, since it's just in my sketchbook, I am just using this glue stick. And this is just a dollar store glue stick. So if I were doing this on a cradle board or something like that, I would use my matte medium from Liquitex or something like that. You know, and actually what I could do, say if I got to the point where I wanted to do a cradle board on a bigger scale than what I'm doing in this book, but I liked some of the work that I've done here, I can cut these up and use them in other collage. I've photographed these, so I could take the photos that I've taken of this work, and I can cut that up and use it in a bigger collage. So that's some of the stuff I can do. Years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, I bought a lot of the 11 by 14 or 8 by 10. I think they're bigger, but maybe 9 by 12 cradle boards from the dollar store. And I'm glad I did, because they no longer have those available. And so those are kind of like waiting to be used in some kind of work that I'll do. So just playing around here. And what I'm looking for here is maybe a little bit more variety than in this piece here, probably. Put it up here. It's a pretty big piece, so it's going to overlap some of that tape. And let me see. So I'm not sure this is going to work all that great. Maybe I should have waited until to do more painting or using a marker on this, and then taking the tape off before I added the collage. But I guess everything is kind of an experiment here. We'll see how it turns out. So I'm putting that right up next to that tape but not on top of it. So where am I at now? Okay. So now I think I'm ready to add some marks. Just looking around to see what I've got. I know I did some stuff with this purple, and I have these. So I like the purple, so and I'm just going to go down through and make some purple shapes. And just, this is just for my sketchbook, but at some point I'm going to go, yeah, you know, I really like that, and that's something I want to continue doing, or I don't really care for that, so that's not something I want to keep doing. That's all a big piece of tape there. So I'm just using this, the Sharpie Creative Marker, and just making, so some of that's going on the tape. That doesn't really matter. Kind of a waste though. And the purple to me is a good contrast. Black would probably be better. And I will come in with some black here. Black kind of helps your offset your collage, the yellow color. So you gotta have a little black in here. Okay. So I'm looking over here for, here's black. So what do I want to do with black? Let's just do some squiggle lines. Again, I'm using this Sharpie. And this might very well get covered up with more collage. So I think after I do these black squiggle lines, I will do another, and I just call it layer. I'll just do another layer of collage. And what do I want to use this time that'd be kind of different? You know, well, let me see what's in here. I have, here's this. I have this piece that's left. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just rip it in half. I'll stick a piece here. Again, trying not to go on. Now I think after I get, in fact, I think before I do this, I am going to tear this tape off. So it is pulling up a little bit of the paper. So I may not use Scotch tape. It could be the paper too. I haven't tried this on watercolor paper or anything heavier like that. So that pulled off all the tape. You can't even really tell that this was a grid. And that's really not my point. But now there's enough structure there. I can look at each one and see the squares. So I had noticed this morning when I was doing a little bit of cleanup that I had a big bag. Oh, it's huge. But I need to go through, and maybe I'll do that on tape, but I have a big bag of collage material. Just one of these huge Ziploc bags. And so I may go through it on and do a separate video, but for right now I'm just going to pull some interesting things out of it to use on this page just for fun. So this stuff came out of a scrapbook. I bought somebody's travel scrapbooks several years ago. There was about 10 of them. And I got them in an online auction. So much fun. And there was so much neat stuff in there. I'm just looking for some random, I kind of like these people. I'll cut these out. Just to have something a little different in this, on this page. And something else I tend not to do, but I think is cool, or I forget, is having these pieces overlap other pieces. So I think that's important too. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to reach back down into this big bag of collage stuff. Oh, so here is, this looks kind of neat. Something I ordered from Temu or got at a garage sale or something like that. It's not too colorful though. Yeah, we'll go ahead. here's kind of an interesting bag full of goodies. Tags. Here's some, I'll use that later. So I'm kind of looking at these water baby dolls. Okay. So, and these are just McCall's Crafts pattern. Let's see. This is calligraphy practice paper. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out some of this. So that's a little different. Okay, so there's that. So when I was reorganizing stuff this morning, I came across more, just all kinds. I've got tons of business cards. And so here's some here. If you're wondering what kind of scissors these are, I think these are seafood scissors or something. There's something really strange. I can't remember what, but usually if I go to garage sale or thrift store or whatever, I always look at scissors just to see what they got. If there's something neat I can use for collage work. And these are very, I mean, they are one tough pair of scissors, let me tell you. I'll cut it right across here. I'm trying to get a variety in size more than anything. And color too, of course, but and what was I thinking? Oh yeah. So these are negative envelopes. And I like the colors on them. That graphic's pretty cool too. I think I'll save that and use it in something else. and it's in there somewhere too. And I just feel like I need to put something down in here. So okay. Take a look here. I feel like I need something here. So just to create kind of interest in a piece like this, you know, I cut and then I tear some pieces of the collage. So this is where we're at right now. So I'm looking, what else do I think I need to do on this? I actually think I would like to do some more shapes with the black over some of these collage pieces. Just to overlap a little bit, or do something like this. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit finer tipped pen, if I can find it. Here's Sharpie. And just do some of these squiggly lines. To add a little bit more. I know it's very busy. It seems to be my thing lately. And I really love minimalist art. But this is kind of maximalist. So that's a very quick and I was going to almost said dirty overview of my collage process. Very messy. But collage kind of is. So my next step is to take some of these materials or even maybe some of these sheets and use them in the book that I'm going to create to go in the tin.